Screencast 32. Combining fields and showing row numbers. We left off with my color lovers color report. I'm going to show you two simple techniques that you can use in many of your reports. And the problems we're going to solve today are two. First, just take a look at the report. We have all the color columns, of course. We have the ID column, we have the username, and we have the title. Now when you get reports like this, because we have these fields, it's tempting to always just map every field to a column. When you do that, things work, but you can also create a situation where you're not effectively using the space that you have available. So one technique is, when you think things are going to be often shown together, to simply show them in the same cell. In this case, let's suppose we want to focus on the title of the palette, and we do want to show the username, but we don't want it to occupy all this reserved space. What we're going to do is we're going to show them together. We're going to combine the fields. The second thing is, now if you paid attention when I first started this report, these were the top palettes from Color Lovers. What this means is they're actually ranked. So that the one on top is on the top of the report is the top ranked color palette. What we're going to do is we want to show the ranking, right? So we want to show, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll show you different techniques we can use to get that done. But first, let's start with combining the fields. This is very simple. We'll just do it step by step. Let's look at the title. And let me turn on my vertical tab group to make this easier. We're going to combine these two fields. And step by step, let's do this. So there's the title. You notice there's an expression there, of course. Let's edit the expression. And what we want to do is show the username next to it. So first, let's just put some dummy text. Username. And I'll do it like this. You're probably wondering why I did 3 strings, only because it'll make it a bit easier later on. So I'm combining the title plus the left bracket, username, and the right bracket. Okay, so you can see the combination now. And notice that because these fields now have generally become 2 lines, that the heights of the rows are bigger. We can turn that off. But I'll leave that alone for right now. Now that we're satisfied that we can get the name and the username, we know how to write that in an expression. Let's actually get that field. So again, the title, I will edit the expression, and I'll delete the username string, and I'll just go to fields, and I'll get the username field. And now when I click on the preview, you'll see the username field. Now, one of the limitations of this technique is, you remember how I had the username here and it was in italic? You might be able to see that in the screencast. I can't differentially format it here. Okay, they're going to be the same font. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. Now that the username is accounted for, I can remove that field. Now, removing it from the data set, the data region, didn't mean that we removed it from the data set, and that data is still being retrieved, obviously, into the report. It's just that we're not visualizing it. If I click here now, okay, now you can see that I'm getting that text back there, and I'm missing the field. Now, to compensate for the extra length, I'm going to add some extra width to the title field. So I'll go here and change its display width to, let's say, 2.5 inches. There we go. Everything looks quite nice now. Now remember I said we can we're going to do 2 things. We're going to combine fields, but also what we're going to do is we're going to show you about how to get a row number. So there are 2 techniques. The first technique that you might think of based on my previous screencasts is, let's go to the data method that's called getNewPalettes, and let's just add a new column, which is the row number. And that's a totally valid technique, and sometimes that is in fact the simplest thing to do. So the row number is actually going to become part of the data in that case. Now I won't do that. Instead, I'm going to show you a different way, which is to use expressions, the native expressions available in the report definition. Now how that works is, let's add a new field. Now watch, I'm just going to add a new one, and I'll call it row number, and I'm going to move it to the top by clicking on this button, and if I preview the report, you'll see it. Okay, there's no caption, that's why it's just a blank area. Let's add a caption. Row, and I'll make it just maybe 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't really need so much space. Yeah, maybe I need a little more space for the word row. Let's go ahead and just make it 1/2 inch. Okay, and let's just put in some dummy expression. Put 1 there. Everything will have the row number 1 for a moment. Okay. Now we need to fix this up and make it show an actual row number. So I'll go to the properties, look at expression, and under common functions, under miscellaneous, there's a row number function. Let me erase my string there. Row number, now row number, as I hit the left parentheses, you'll see there are overloads. There's a scope, and there's a this count group. Now, this is going to be confusing. If I just type in nothing there, what will happen? You see it says design has a validation error, and it'll say data item row number has invalid expression for property expression, row number is invalid. That is really not a very clear expression, but what it means is you need to type something in there into this argument. So fortunately, we're going to pass essentially null, which in this VB language is called nothing. Now let's try it. Okay, now you see, right? We have a row number. Okay? And that's a cheap way of getting a row number for the things that are coming back in your data regions. And there's a problem with row numbers, but it's not obvious right now. But I'll bring up the problem just so you're aware. Let's try some grouping. Okay? You remember grouping? You just had to drag a field somewhere. Now in this case, I don't want to remove a field. So I'm going to, remember if I drag this way, the field will actually move. Instead, I'm going to drag it from the data set. So I'll drag the title into grouping, which may sound a little bit odd that I'm doing that, because of course everything essentially has a unique title, right? Okay, now watch. What happens to the row numbers? Okay, they're good so far, right? They're kind of going correctly from 1 to, so no complaints. And we see our title. Now, this is a little bit of an advanced technique. I'm going to create a special grouping on the fly. If you look at the grouping node here, on the groupings for title, it says group on title. And there's an expression. I can actually control the value that's being used to group things. Now, if we go here, let's think about what I might want to do. Right? And what I might want to do is actually group by the first letter of something, right? Like in a phone directory listing. You want to group by someone's last name, the first letter. So let's do that. And we need to get the first letter. So there's a common function under text called left. So let me put my insertion point here and click left. And I'll do my left parentheses so you can see, oops, there. So we get the string and the length, right? So I just want the first. And there we go. Now let's see what happens and how that affects grouping. So now we're grouping by the first letter, but we still see an actual, one of the specific values there, which is a bit odd, when you think about it. Like we'd expect to see V there, or W here, or S there. Right, so let's fix that problem. We'll go to title, and actually not title, but the header of the group. And this controls what's going to be shown there. In this case, what we're going to show is, in this expression, under here, under the header, show the same exact value as we have there. So I'll just copy that text, from the group on and change the header to use the same thing. Now watch. See? G, T, C, A, right? And the problem I was alluding to, by the way, was that the row numbers, this may be correct from your point of view, the row numbers don't reset, right? You kind of expect maybe to see 1, 2, 1, 2, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, but they don't reset. So in the next screencast, I'll talk a little bit more how to reset that. But before we go there, I'll take you a little bit further on the grouping. And notice a couple of things. First, the first group is G, then T. We're going to solve that problem. It's obviously not sorted in a nice way. We're going to sort it, since we're grouping this way, we're going to sort it alphabetically. Now, fortunately, sorry, I'm clicking all over the place. Under groupings, there's a sorting field, right? And we can sort also on the group. So we can sort, let's see, can we drag it that way? No. Let's see. What do you think would work? I can sort it by title again, right? So there we go. We can sort it by the title field. Now, we want to use the same exact expression though. So I'll copy that and paste it here, and it's sorting ascending. And there you go. Notice there's a little bit of a weird case here because one of the titles is very oddly named special characters here. But there we go, A, C, G. Now what else did you notice is that the upper and lower cases are considered distinct. And really we want to show always uppercase. So what we want to do is show and group on the uppercase of these values. So it's U case. Take the uppercase and then get the left. And I'll go ahead and copy this because I'm going to paste it in several places. Copy. Okay. So there. And sorting, I'll use the same one. Paste. And in the header, I'll use the same one and paste it. Now what do you see? So everything's grouped by the capital, the leftmost letter, right? And again, in the next screencast, I'll show you how to deal with the different row numbers, because what we want to do is reset the row numbers on each group. Okay? So that'll be the next time. See you then.